All right, so let's get started with our study of chemistry. And there's nowhere else to start but with matter. Matter is the basis of chemistry. When we're looking at chemistry, we're looking at how does matter change, how is it affected. Everything is based around matter. So the first question to ask is, what is matter? I have different examples here of matter. I got some gold, I have the sun, I have the shot of the galaxies, the cosmos here. I have flowers, diamonds, feather, there's water, the sky, the clouds. Everything here are examples of matter. Basically anything that has mass, as you see down here, and has volume is considered to be matter. So anything that you could touch or think of touching, we are going to consider matter. And all matter is going to be made up of some combination of the elements. So let's take a look at the periodic table elements. I have one here, and in this periodic table they actually have pictures of the different elements. So my question is, a lot of these look the same. How can we distinguish one substance from another substance? If we look here, a lot of these look very, very similar. So how is it that we can look at these and tell these apart, these different substances, these different elements? Well, it's the same way that we tell different people apart, by their characteristics, except for in chemistry, we call the characteristics of matter properties of matter. So let's look at the different properties of matter. So here we go, properties of matter. Like I said before, properties of matter are like the characteristics of matter. It's how we're going to tell one substance apart from a different substance. And the most important properties that we can take, or the first type of properties I want to look at, is intensive and extensive properties. So intensive properties, I think, are the most important. These properties are intrinsic to the substance. They're part of the substance personality, meaning they don't change. All gold acts a certain way. All helium acts a different way than gold. It's part of the personality of that substance. And this personality, this intensive properties, are determined by the atom's electron configuration. And I know you don't know what that means right now, that we will cover in a later video, but the personality, the intensive properties, are determined by the atom's electron configuration. Then we have extensive properties. And the extensive properties really just depend on the amount of substance, how much substance is there. So these are the first types of properties of matter that I kind of want to discuss. Okay, so here we go. We have intensive and extensive properties. So I'm going to bring in two samples of matter. First one, I have a gold bar here. The second one, I have gold dust. Now both of these are made up of the same type of atoms, gold. Now any properties that are the same between these two, so any type of characteristics that are the same between the two, are intensive properties. First, like the color. The color of these two are exactly the same. That's an intensive characteristic or intensive property. They're both going to melt at the same point. At the same temperature, they'll both melt. And then also, how hard the metal is the same between these two. Now, any properties or any characteristics between these two that are different, those are called extensive properties. So obviously the mass of these two are going to be different. The shape is going to be different. Obviously we can see the shape's different. And the volume, how much space that each object takes up, is different. So again, the extensive property depends on how much of it you have, the amount, and the intensive properties do not. They are part of the personality of that type of atom or that type of substance. And they are always going to be the same no matter how much you have. So if you can imagine cutting the gold bar in half, any characteristics that would stay the same would be intensive properties. Any characteristics that would change, or properties that would change, that would be extensive. So now that we know what intensive and extensive properties are, there's really only two more types of properties that I want to discuss with you in this video. And that's chemical and physical properties. So chemical property is any property that can be observed by changing the chemical identity of the substance. And this may seem kind of weird to you and you don't know what that means, but let's just take a look. So if we take a match and we strike it and light it on fire, this is combustibility. That's an example of a chemical property. It's the ability to combust and be on fire. What do I mean by changing the chemical identity of the substance? That just means changing the chemical formula, making something new. So if we take this matchstick plus oxygen in the air, you know that you need that to burn. When it's done burning, when the chemical reaction is over, you're going to be left with CO2 and H2O and some ash. So the chemical formula itself has changed. That's what I mean by its chemical identity. The chemical formula has changed. You are changing the actual substance. As far as physical goes, physical properties are any properties that can be observed without changing the identity of the substance. So we don't change the identity of the substance. So if you take an ice cube and you melt it, you may think, oh, that's changing the identity, but it's not changing the chemical identity. So we can observe the melting point this way. And if we look at the formulas, the chemical identity, we have H2O, that's ice. When it melts, we have H2O in the water form. So the formula itself hasn't changed at all. So we still have H2O, whether it be in ice or in water, but we were still able to observe the melting point, the temperature at which it melts, and that's a physical property. Alright, so that's all we're going to discuss in this video. Hopefully what I wanted you to learn was the different types of properties and how we use them to distinguish one type of element from another. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in class.